A muscle is composed of a large number of muscle fibers. The muscle fibers are arranged in groups. Each group is under the control of a single motor neuron, the axon of which sends a terminal branch to each fiber of the group. All the muscle fibers of a group contract when a nerve impulse travels down their motor neuron. A motor neuron and the group of muscle fibers innervated by its axon constitute a functional unit called the motor unit. The number of muscle fiber and motor unit is variable and depends on the fineness of the control. Motor unit consists of a motor neuron and the group of skeletal muscle fibers which it innervates. Two types of motor units are found in skeletal muscle. Type 1. Type 1 motor units, also called as slow twitch oxidative, are very resistant to fatigue because they are nourished with an extensive blood supply to maintain aerobic metabolism. Since they are fatigue resistant, type 1 motor units are the first motor units recruited by the central nervous system when a muscle is activated. They continue to be recruited as long as the muscle remains active. Type 1 motor units are well adapted for low intensity work like maintaining posture. They are sometimes called tonic motor units because they provide muscle tone. Type 2. Type 2 motor units are called fast twitch or phasic motor units because of their quicker response time. Type 2 motor units are recruited after Type 1 motor units to provide short bursts or phases of higher muscle tension as required. Type 2 motor units have two subcategories. Both react quickly in a relatively short period of time, but they differ in resistance to fatigue. Type 2B. Type 2B motor units are very prone to fatigue, but they produce the most force when stimulated. These are the last motor units recruited when a muscle gets activated. Type 2A. Type 2A motor units are the intermediate motor units. Their peak force and their resistance to fatigue are intermediate to those of type 1 and type 2B. An individual muscle contains all three types of motor units. This provides each muscle with the ability to produce an increased force output from a low level to a high level, and it also provides each muscle with a certain degree of muscular endurance. The number of muscle fibers within a motor unit varies and is a function of the muscle's ability for accurate and refined motion. Precision is inversely proportional to the size of the motor unit. Thus, small motor units can exercise greater precision of movement compared to larger motor units. The sarcomeres are what give skeletal and cardiac muscles their striated appearance. A sarcomere is defined as the segment between two neighboring Z lines or Z discs or Z bodies. In electron micrographs of cross-striated muscle, the Z line is a line in between the eye bands and appears as a series of dark lines. Surrounding the Z line is a region of the eye band or isotropic band. Eye band is the zone of thin filaments that is not superimposed by thick filaments. Following the eye band is the A band or anisotropic band. It is named for its properties under a polarizing microscope. An A band contains the entire length of a single thick filament. Within the A band is a paler region called the H zone. H band is the zone of thick filaments that is not superimposed by the thin filaments. Inside the H zone is a thin M line, which is the disc in the middle of the sarcomere formed of cross-connecting elements of the cytoskeleton. The bulk of the striated muscles is made up of various proteins. Of these, three major proteins are myosin 54%, actin 20.25% and tropomyosin 11%. Myosin. It is a main constituent of the thick filament. It possesses the properties of ATPase and can combine with actin to form actomyosin. Myosin can be hydrolyzed into subfragments. On digestion with trypsin, it yields two major subfragments, the light meromyosin LMM and the heavy meromyosin HMM. LMM contains LMM1 and other proteins. HMM molecule possesses a globular head and a tail region. Together, they form the shape of the myosin molecule. HMM and LMM are in the ratio of 1:1. Myosin attaches to actin via HMM. Actin. Actin occurs in two physical forms, fibrous actin or F-actin, which is a polymer of globular actin or G-actin. Actomyosin. Actin and myosin combine together to form actomyosin. Mg2+ is required for the activity of ATPase, while Ca2+ is needed for the formation of this complex. Tropomyosin. Tropomyosin is a rod-shaped molecule and has two chains in a helical chain arrangement. It is tightly associated with actin and lies in the grooves of actin double helix. It has no ATPase activity. It has two forms, tropomyosin A and B. Troponin. Troponin is a complex of three proteins, TNI, TNC and TNT. In the absence of calcium ions, when there is no contraction, troponin-tropomyosin complex prevents the formation of bridges between actin and myosin. The nerve supply to muscles is called as innervation of muscles. The innervation of each type of muscle is controlled by the nervous system responsible for its function. Involuntary muscles are innervated by the autonomic nervous system and voluntary muscles by the peripheral nervous system. In skeletal muscle, the point of innervation is called the motor point. A motor unit functions together as a whole. The number of motor units activated is determined by the strength of the contraction needed. Stronger the contraction, more will be the number of motor units required, and vice versa. Large muscles have large motor units, small muscles have smaller motor units. The muscle fibers of a motor unit follow the all or none rule. According to this law, the motor unit either contracts fully or not at all. The law applies only to individual motor units. Several types of muscle contractions occur. They are defined by the changes in the length of the muscle during contraction. Isotonic contractions. Iso means the same and tonic refers to tension or force in the muscle. In an isotonic contraction, tension develops to a point and then remains constant while the muscle changes its length. In other words, motor units are activated to develop the necessary tension in the muscle. We utilize isotonic contractions when we move our limbs. Let's consider an example. Let's consider a person attempting to pick 25 kilograms. This movement requires the use of the biceps brachii. Before the muscle can shorten and thus move the 25 kilogram load, it must first develop slightly more than 25 kilograms of tension. Once enough motor units are activated to produce tension, slightly greater than the load, the muscle can shorten. A tension develops in the muscle even before the weight is moved. Once muscle tension slightly exceeds the load, muscular contraction can then be used to shorten the muscle and move the load. It's important to note that force does not change in the muscle while it's shortening, hence the term isotonic contraction. Isometric contractions. Isometric means same length, wherein iso means the same and metric refers to the length of the muscles. In contrast to isotonic contractions, isometric contractions generate force without changing the length of the muscle. An example is when the muscle of the hand and the forearm grip an object. The joints of the hand do not move, but muscles generate sufficient force to prevent the object from being dropped. It also happens when we attempt to lift more than we can. Various types of contraction relaxation sequences can be seen in muscles. A twitch is a single stimulus contraction relaxation sequence in a muscle fiber. They are the fine movements of a small area of muscle. Twitches vary in duration. twitches in one eye muscle fiber can be as brief as 7.5 milliseconds, but a twitch in a muscle fiber from the soleus, a small calf muscle, lasts about 100 milliseconds. Stages of a simple twitch. A simple twitch can be divided into a latent phase, contraction phase, and a relaxation phase. The latent period begins at stimulation and lasts about 2 milliseconds. Over this period, the action potential sweeps across the sarcolemma and the sarcoplasmic reticulum releases calcium ions. The muscle fiber does not produce tension during the latent period because the contraction cycle has yet to begin. The time it takes the muscle to react to the stimulus is called as the latent period. In the contraction phase, tension rises to a peak. As tension rises, calcium ions are bound to the troponin, active sites on thin filaments are exposed, and cross-bridge interaction occurs. The contraction phase ends roughly 15 milliseconds after stimulation. The contraction period is a time where the muscle is actually contracting. The relaxation phase then continues for about another 25 milliseconds, which is longer than the contraction phase. During this period, calcium levels fall, active sites are covered by tropomyosin, and the number of active cross bridges decline. The last period is when the muscle length returns back to normal. Fatigue and cold conditions increase the relaxation phase. TREP is seen when a skeletal muscle is stimulated a second time immediately after the relaxation phase has ended. The contraction that occurs will develop a slightly higher maximum tension than did the contraction after the first stimulation and will continue over the first 30 to 50 stimulations. Thereafter, the amount of tension produced will remain constant at roughly 25% of the maximal tension that would be produced in complete tetanic contraction, also known as tetanus. Because the tension rises in stages like the steps in a staircase, this phenomena is called TREP, a German word meaning stairs. The rise is thought to result from a gradual increase in concentration of the calcium ions in the sarcoplasm because the ion pumps in the sarcoplasmic reticulum are unable to recapture them in the time between stimulations. A tetanic contraction, also called tetanus, is a sustained muscle contraction evoked when the motor nerve that innervates a skeletal muscle emits action potentials at a very high rate. During this state, a motor unit has been maximally stimulated by its motor neuron and remains that way for some time. This occurs when a muscle's motor unit is stimulated by multiple impulses at a sufficiently high frequency. Each stimulus causes a twitch. If stimuli are delivered slowly enough, the tension in the muscle will relax between successive twitches. If stimuli are delivered at high frequency, the twitches will overlap, resulting in tetanic contraction. When tetanized, the contracting tension in the muscle remains constant in a steady state. This is the maximal possible contraction. During tetanic contractions, muscles can shorten, lengthen, or remain constant length. Muscles may exhibit some level of tetanic activity, leading to muscle tone in order to maintain posture. If a second stimulus arrives before the relaxation phase has ended, a second more powerful contraction occurs. The addition of one twitch to another in this way constitutes summation of twitches or wave summation. The duration of a single twitch determines the maximum time available to produce wave summation. For example, if a twitch lasts 20 milliseconds or 1/50th of a second, subsequent stimuli must be separated by less than 20 milliseconds, a stimulation rate of more than 50 stimuli per second. Various types of changes can be seen when muscles contract. These include electrical, histological, and physical changes. A number of electrical events occur during muscle contraction. Resting potential of -70 millivolts is disturbed. The potential difference along the two surfaces of the sarcolemma come to 0 millivolts, that is depolarization. The potential difference reaches to plus 35 millivolts, that is reverse polarization. A potential difference of minus 70 millivolts is set, that is resting potential. These changes liberate calcium ions into the sarcoplasm from the T-sarcotubular system to L-sarcotubular system. These ions cause sliding of the actin filaments into the myosin, interdigitation. The degree of interdigitation is dependent on the amount of calcium ions, which is dependent on electrical events, that is, intensity of the stimulus. Interdigitation of actin and myosin results in several histological changes. The two adjacent Z lines come closer, I bands disappear, there is change in A band but the H zone disappears. Various physical changes are observed during a muscle contraction: shortening of muscle fiber, viscosity, tonicity and heat production. Shortening of muscle fiber. During muscle contraction, the sarcomeres shorten to about 60 to 70% of the length of the muscle fiber when at rest. This depends on the strength of the stimulus and the number of motor units involved. Viscosity. During muscle contraction, viscosity and density of the sarcoplasm increases. Tonicity. The partial contraction of a relaxed muscle is called tonus. During muscle contraction, the tonicity increases as more and more motor units come into the phase of contraction. Heat production. The energy released by ATP during muscle contraction is partially converted to heat, which helps in maintaining homeothermy. Muscles contract when sarcomeres shorten. The thick and thin filaments that compose sarcomeres do not shorten. Instead, they slide past one another, causing the sarcomere to shorten. Thus, the filaments remain the same length. The sliding filament theory of muscle contraction is the binding of myosin to actin and forming cross bridges that generate filament movement. Chains of actin proteins form high tensile passive thin filaments that transmit the force generated by myosin to the ends of the muscle. Myosin also forms thick filaments. ATP binds to myosin and is hydrolyzed by ATPase into ADP and phosphate. The energy released by this process activates the myosin head and moves it into a high energy extended position. This myosin head binds to a newly exposed active site on the thin filament, generating a cross bridge between actin and myosin. Myosin releases the ADP and phosphate, returning to a low energy position, pulling the thin filament along. This movement is called a power stroke. Shortening occurs when the extensible region pulls the filaments across each other like the shortening of a spring. Myosin remains attached to the actin. The binding of ATP destabilizes the myosin-actin bond, allowing myosin to detach from actin. While detached, ATP hydrolysis occurs, recharging the myosin head. If the actin binding sites are still available, myosin can bind actin again. The collective bending of numerous myosin heads, all in the same direction, combine to move the actin filament relative to the myosin filament. This results in muscle contraction. The sarcomere consists of a central bidirectional thick filament flanked by two actin filaments oriented in opposite direction. When each end of the myosin thick filament moves along the actin filament which it overlaps, the two actin filaments are drawn closer together. The I bands contract towards the A bands, thereby shortening the I band as the myosin overlaps with the actin. Thus, the ends of the sarcomere are drawn and the sarcomere shortens. Sarcomeres are connected by Z lines which anchor the ends of actin filaments in such a way that the filaments on each side of the Z line point in opposite direction with reversed polarity. When a muscle fiber contracts, all sarcomeres contract simultaneously so that force is transmitted to the fiber ends. Excitation contraction coupling is the physiological process of converting an electrical stimulus to a mechanical response. It is the link or the transduction between the action potential generated in the sarcolemma and the start of the muscle contraction. Communication between nerves and muscles. A neural signal is the electrical trigger for calcium release from the sarcoplasmic reticulum into the sarcoplasm. Each skeletal muscle fiber is controlled by a motor neuron which conducts signal from the brain or spinal cord to the muscle. Electrical signals called action potentials travel along the neuron's axon. The axon branches through the muscle, connecting to the individual muscle fibers at a neuromuscular junction. The area of the sarcolemma on the muscle fiber that interacts with the neuron is called as the motor end plate. The end of the axon is called the synaptic terminal. It does not actually contact the motor end plate. A small space called the synaptic cleft separates the synaptic terminal from the motor end plate. As axons do not directly contact the motor end plate, communication between nerves and muscles occurs through neurotransmitters. Action potential causes the release of neurotransmitters from the synaptic terminal into the synaptic cleft, where they can then diffuse across the synaptic cleft and bind to a receptor molecule on the motor end plate. The motor end plate possesses junctional folds in the sarcolemma that create a large surface area for the neurotransmitter to bind to receptors. The receptors are sodium channels that open to allow the passage of sodium ions into the cell when they receive neurotransmitter signal. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter released by motor neurons that binds to receptors in the motor end plate. Neurotransmitter release occurs when an action potential travels down the axon motor neuron. It results in altered permeability of the synaptic terminal membrane and an influx of calcium ions. The calcium ions allow synaptic vesicles to move to and bind with the presynaptic membrane on the neuron and release neurotransmitter from the vesicles into the synaptic cleft. From here, acetylcholine diffuses across the synaptic cleft to the motor end plate, where it binds with acetylcholine receptors. As a neurotransmitter binds, these ion channels open and sodium ions cross the membrane into the muscle cell. This reduces the voltage difference between the inside and outside of the cell, which is called depolarization. As acetylcholine binds at the motor end plate, this depolarization is called an end plate potential. The depolarization then spreads along the sarcolemma and down the T tubules, creating an action potential. The action potential triggers the sarcoplasmic reticulum to release calcium ions, which activates troponin and stimulate muscle contraction. Acetylcholine is broken down by the enzyme acetylcholinesterase into acetyl and choline. Acetylcholinesterase resides in the synaptic cleft, breaking down acetylcholine so that it does not remain bound to acetylcholine receptors, which would cause unwanted extended muscle contraction. ATP is the immediate source of energy for muscle contraction. ATP plus H2O gives ADP plus PI plus energy. However, the ATP stores in the muscle can sustain muscle contraction for up to 3 seconds. After that, all the ATP is depleted from the muscle cell. Thereafter, ATP is regenerated using the energy released by the dephosphorylation of creatine phosphate, reserve of the muscle fiber. Creatine phosphate plus ADP gives creatine plus ATP. The creatine phosphate reserves of the muscle fiber can sustain contraction for about 5 more seconds, that is up to 8 seconds. After depletion of creatine phosphate reserves, further supply of energy for regeneration of ATP comes from glycolysis, which can sustain muscle contraction up to 1 minute. The end product of glycolysis is pyruvate and ATP molecules. When oxygen is available, the acetyl coenzyme A is metabolized completely through the Krebs cycle. However, in absence of oxygen, the acetyl coenzyme A molecules condense to form lactic acid. Pyruvate plus NADH gives lactate plus NAD+. The lactic acid is released into blood from where it is taken up by the liver and kidney, reconverted into glucose and released back into circulation. This recycling of lactic acid is called Cori cycle. Glycolysis alone can sustain contraction for about 1 minute only, since lactic acid accumulation makes prolonged contraction difficult. In presence of oxygen, the terminal product of glycolysis, that is pyruvate, is converted into acetyl coenzyme A and fed into the Krebs cycle, in which 38 molecules of ATP are generated. Krebs cycle can sustain muscle contraction for several hours. Muscle fatigue refers to the decline in muscle force generated over sustained periods of activity or due to pathological issues. Muscle fatigue results from two main issues: nervous fatigue and metabolic fatigue. Nervous fatigue. Nervous fatigue is a type of fatigue caused by changes within the function of the central nervous system that cannot be explained by dysfunction of the muscle. It is brought about by prolonged exercise and the neurochemical changes in the brain associated with it, primarily of serotonin and dopamine. Nervous fatigue plays an important role in endurance sports and also highlights the importance of proper nutrition in endurance athletics. Metabolic fatigue. By contrast, metabolic fatigue is a result of a decrease in necessary ions such as calcium or substrates like ATP, or the accumulation of agonistic metabolites such as lactic acid. Lactic acid accumulates as a result of anaerobic exercise through the glycolysis pathway. Muscle contraction provides animals with great flexibility, allowing them to move in various ways. The molecular changes that result in contraction have been conserved across evolution in the majority of animals. Sliding filament theory explains the molecular mechanisms behind muscle contraction. Sarcomere, the basic unit, controls the changes in muscle length. Within the sarcomere, myosin slides along actin to contract the muscle fiber in a process that requires ATP. Accessory proteins and ions like calcium, troponin and tropomyosin regulate muscle contractions and motor behaviors. Together, these proteins cause contraction and movement in organisms. So now we have seen all that goes into a simple muscle contraction.